All right, everyone, we're going to do a quick walkthrough here of the Xroc Friday. And again, just reiterating, I had a couple tough days last week, and those come from reviewing the price chart, let's say a 5-minute or an hour or 15-minute, and I have that off to the side, and I'm thinking the market is going to double top or it's going to reverse. And the problem with that is not that it's not going to, it's that when you're trading the futures and you're trading contract size, you can't have your stop out that far. So when it comes down to I think trades, those stops would have to be quite a bit larger, usually double or triple of what I'm usually using. So again, those trades ended up being losers, even though, as you know from my post in the Discord, that we were looking at 20,000 from the drop on Thursday to hit 20,000, and that easily did that. So and then of course we went sideways after a big move on Friday. So, but needless to say, those are the reasons. So they're disobeying the rules, and the rules for the Xroc anyways, and you pay the price for that. And so rules are broken, but there are some 100% don'ts, and that would be: don't add on to losing positions, don't double down on the next trade after a loss, and don't move your stop loss. And with the Xroc, it is best to not trade through levels. Some will go and some won't. So, but that's the rules. So let's kind of walk through Friday a little bit and see where we're at. So we had a little gap down on Friday, and then it kind of started to sell a little bit. So we're looking for basically lower lows and lower highs. So as our everything is down because of the gap here, and so we have our open here at the orange little dots there, and so we get a low, and then it starts to come back, and we want to sell underneath this opacity zone. We actually want to buy when it's above it. We want to sell when we're below these spans here, and in perfect order they should be blue, yellow, pink, or from the top down, blue, yellow, pink. So right now the blue and the yellow are reversed, so that means realistically we likely had a trading range, and so that's from the end of Friday. And so we coming up here, and we get a little bit, and you can see this green area here, and let me get a pin out so I can actually show. But these are buy gaps here. This is a buy gap, this is a buy gap, and they are active on the open here. So there are buy gaps here in this area. So let me so this is all a buy gap. This is a buy gap. This is a buy gap. So all these were gaps from that previous move up. And so trading through these, like to sell off through these, is something that you have to take a look at carefully, because a lot of times they bounce. So, and you don't know which one's going to hold and which one's not in most cases. So what we look for is we look for confirmation so that we can actually catch a trade off of them. So usually for me to sell through buy gaps or buy through a sell gap, I need sell gaps pushing through the buy gaps, or buy gaps pushing through the sell gaps, meaning I need newer ones forming. So I need strength pushing up, and most of the time that will help. Trading ranges sometimes won't, because you'll get that second leg move into the top of the trading range, and it's usually really strong, and then it fails. So but beyond that, most of the time you would have a pretty good option if you stick to the rules. So, all right, so we have coming up to the highway here, and so the market kind of turns off the highway here. So again, you would be selling on no doji bars. So this is a doji bar here. Let me make this a little bigger. So we want full body bars. So that's a doji. This one is almost a full body bar, but our Xroc and our oscillators and relative momentum oscillators that are dealing with OHLC are saying that this is still up. So in this, you don't want to try to predict the color change when it's very large, especially on the first part of the open too. Usually wait 3 to 5 minutes to let the market kind of find its where it wants to be and then go from there. But we have a lower low and a lower high, and then it creates a higher low. And so again, this is up now, but it's still 631. Could you attempt that? You could attempt that. It wouldn't have clipped you out. You're trading below, you're trying to buy below the highway, which you don't want to do. And then we have a double bottom here and another one right into the highway. So, and then you have the third one right into the highway. And again, if you're doing anything at these moments, you're probably looking for the buy because we have buy gaps here. So we're looking for those buyers to find some place to come back into the market. But again, we're below, so we want to not take these trades here. So we're about 2 minutes in now, and it comes off of the open here and it drops down, and again it's basically in a little trading range here, as we can kind of see, but it's trying to find where it wants to go. And so again, we're looking for things to be confluent. And so right now we got a higher high and now we have a higher low, but again, we're through the opacity zone of the highway. So this become risky because of the fact that, one, you have to trade through the highway, and you can see it chops on the highway, or it bounces on the highway, it bounces here, and then it decides to go through. So if you think you're the one that's going to pick where it's going to finally decide to go through, then you're a pro trader. And that's how it works. But for me, it seems that whenever I try to predict that, I pick the ones that don't go, right? And so I don't know if you can relate to that, but that's how it works. So, but we want higher highs and higher lows, so we're starting to get that. And then we get another higher high, and it's reaching for the spans here. You can see that. And then again, it fails to break out of the open here, and then turns back down again into this trading range here. And so could you be taking the top of these trading ranges? Well, again, it didn't quite make it to the span. So, if that maybe made it to the span, there was room back to the open. Maybe you'd think of taking that. I'm not sure, but at this moment, it's bouncing inside these buy gaps, and we're still not really making any discerning moves, even though we do have plenty of bars here to take some profits. There is some divergence here, but I would be very careful with that the orders in, orders out kind of scenario. So beyond that, the market comes down, and now a good setup usually, again, we haven't had any sell gaps dropped in, because one, we're just 5 minutes, 8 minutes into the open, but we have a double doji here underneath the highway. This one's inside the highway, so that one is crapshoot in regards to direction usually, but you want to, if they're under the highway like that, those are usually good trade setups. You would have to wait for the secondary bar here to expand, and then you would take a trade, and really you'd be looking for a breakout of the opening range, which again, this is this is the bottom of Thursday. So it's really, really tough right here because these gaps are here, and it's a double bottom, possible triple bottom from yesterday. And again, this is where those I think I trades I was talking about at the beginning become a problem, because you might think that the market might actually prove you right, but can you hold your stop? And if you move your stop because you think you should be right, that's when you lose your accounts. So we get a lower low again, and then the buyers keep trying to buy it off this bottom here. So it's still another scenario here that we're talking about. So, but we do get a lower low and then a lower high. Again, it's through the highway here. Why not sell here? Because you'd be selling through this sell gap. So again, why this trade here is not technically a trade for the, in the rule book, because this buy gap right here, you're trying to sell through, and right now we have no sell gap telling us that this is going to drop down. We did have a little gap. We had a gap of the open, which would be this gap up here, but usually those gaps get filled, and so probably around 7 o'clock we're going to see that gap get filled. We'll see what happens, but so again, no trade here. We get this little higher low kind of double bottom here. Could you take these trades? Well, again, it's against the rules, and again, you can take any trade you want when it comes to this, but you just got to be careful. So we have here, you can see the end of a sell gap or a buy gap. So this buy gap got eaten, so the one that was spanning above here, so that tells you something, that this was disrespected. So and the market comes off and it's just over, we get a lower high. So again, this is a possibility here to sell, then a higher low, and then a double top. And so maybe you like the double top. It's really nice with the divergence. So this might be an okay trade to try to get back to the bottom, since it hasn't gone up yet. Since the market hasn't gone up yet, it is possible that this is going to try to reach the bottom. And so 1, 2, 3, 4, this would be a trade here if you double top that. Again, it's a buy gap. It's not the best scenario to do, because in most cases these will be somewhat defended. And so the market makes a move here, and usually this is a measured move of the double top. So double top neckline here, so you measure that. Probably can make this a little tighter onto the actual double top there. There we go. And so that's about, that low and then that high, and then we had the peaks popped out. So looking at that, measured move would be here for that drop right there. And then we get a lower low and another lower high. And so again, this right here could be a possibility trade, but again, you're selling through these gaps, and we still haven't had any gap come across the other side. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, and then here would be the target, and again, lower low, lower high. Now we do have some levels down here that that could be looking for here. You have the low and open down there. So lower high, lower low, lower high, another lower low, another lower high. So again, here now at 45, so we're looking for about 50. We're going to see this sell gap. Now you see it early here, so you don't know it's there yet, but this lower high, again, if you if you got trapped in here, it chopped, it lets you out. So if you took that right there, again, the Xroc and everything is up. So it's not a very good scenario. Whereas, you know, on this trade here, it's very small. And, you know, this one, you know, it has divergence and you're above. So again, it'll let you out. And then we get a double bottom here. And we still haven't seen this buy or this sell gap come in. So it's trying to bounce here on this buy gap that's down here. So this is something to keep an eye out for. And you can see the Xroc is up and the oscillator is up. So you don't want to try to sell because this isn't turning red again. It's staying up, you know. So could you buy it? Well, I mean, you could attempt it. Most of these you would have just chopped out with a break even, or you would have taken a loss if you held thinking you were going to be right. Again, it would be really trying to wait for this to come over the highway to buy it, and then to also create some type of sell gap to sell it. So on both cases there, we have another double top here, a triple doji back under the highway. And again, if you stick to the rules, sell under the highway, buy over the highway, don't trade through levels, and don't move your stop. These things are critical. You just make money. Yeah, you lose. Everybody loses, but you'll win more than you lose in the long run, and you learn to use consistency and leverage to make money instead of thinking that you need to take 5,000 trades every day because you need to make $1 million tomorrow. So maybe you could take this, but again, I would be waiting. Again, we've come off the low, and the market makes another double top here. You get double doji, but it's underneath the highway. It's not over, as we talked about. This gap zone is not finished yet. I can shrink this down a little bit. So here we have 50, 49, 50. Here's the gap actually is printed. So from 45 to 50. But now we have a sell gap pushing through. So we have a double top. We got a bunch of dojis, a lower high, and then dojis. Could you sell here? Well, the gap zone did pop in. It's a risky trade. Might have waited for the color change here for everything to go south before you attempt that. You would have a set risk of, you know, your 40 ticks. So, but either way, another buy gap down here and these are layered, so you would definitely want to take profits here. The market continued a little bit off of that buy gap, so that would have been a good trade. Would you sell here? Nope, I wouldn't sell there. You got a buy gap here. Dojis came under and came off the buy gap to go lower. Maybe you would do that. Maybe I think if you weren't short, you just might as well just hang out. We get a lower high, and then a lower low, and now we got a lower high, and it's off of the highway and the buy gap that is now inverting. So possible here. We have a lot of divergence. This is all the way back to its highs, meaning a lot of profit taking. So I wouldn't expect this to continue likely, but I think you'd have enough to get back to those dojis or the bottom here for a trade, but I don't think it would go very much further. But we got another buy gap down here with these lows. So again, we get a double bottom. Relative momentum's up here. I mean, could this be? It's under the highway again. You got to just stick to the rules. Lower high here. Would you be trading into a double bottom? The Xroc, everything's up here, so it's likely it's just going sideways here. So probably looking for some type of bounce off of these gaps, because we have these gaps below, we have this gaps above here. So got like a triple bottom here, and then it kind of really moved up off the triple bottom. So could you attempt this? Yeah, possibly. And then we get this double doji here. But for me, when it's way up here like this, I can't just predict the market's going to take off and leave everybody behind. So in most cases, when this relative momentum gets way up here into this zone between this little red dash and this area up here, 70, 80, and 90 area, it usually does a pullback. And if it doesn't, it's going to create divergence. And not that those are trades technically, it's just that I usually wait. I like it around 0, the 50, everything back here. So same thing here. When this gets up over it, that's 1.1, it usually finds a pullback. So, but not always, because the market does go on these little rampages. So especially in Q, you get a higher low here. We have a sell gap. So again, you don't want to be buying here. This is actually reversing off of that sell gap. See the red zone here? This is that sell gap that it printed over there. And so realistically, you'd want to be looking for some type of sell, except for we're above the highway. So you don't want to trade through it. That's this point and taken here. Big leg up. We should find another leg up, similar size, but we'll see how that works. We have a lower low, lower high. Again, trading through these. This is a low here, private low. It says, everything says sell. Would I sell here? Probably not. You would have been a break even. If you did get in, it wouldn't have taken you out unless you didn't allow your ATM to manage your trade. You get a double bottom again. And again, we still haven't made it back to the blue line, so or the span here. Would you take this? No, it's underneath. Would you take this? Nope, because it's into this sell gap here. Would you sell off of the sell gap? Yeah, you could, but look at, you're just sitting on this as it comes back and forth across, and you're having a heart attack because, it's going against me, I'm going to get clipped out. Oh, I'm in profit, I'm in a loss, I'm in a profit, I'm in a loss. Not the best scenario, because when do you close it? So you have a little bit of a wedge, a little higher low. Would you buy here? Well, here's an interesting, this second bar tail here, that's an interesting bar, because usually that bar gives you a good indication that we're going to go a little higher. And so, but you're trading through the blue span. So you could attempt it here. The market does go all the way to the yellow span, and then it's going to pull back, most likely even pull back before the open on that. So we did have this move here off of the, basically coming down, didn't even make it to the highway, just chopped a little bit and took off. But you get the second bar tail, third bar tail. So maybe you took that back up into the span, but you want to literally buy above this highway. So any of these cases, just like selling below the highway, is a scenario. So we got a little double top here. Usually a pretty good scenario if it's a yellow span and it's the first time back to it. So our Xroc isn't down yet, but usually this is going to give you at least a winning trade. So you'd be in here, stop above the high there, you look for 4 bars, and 1, 2, 3, 4, no problem. And so then we have here 710, 715. So we have this buy gap here. So this buy gap, you might even attempt this this buy here going into the double top. So that would be 1, 2, 3. It would have been a break even and it double topped. And then again, that was off of that span. So look at, you're trading right, trying to trade through it. So I probably wouldn't take that trade. I would likely take this double top though, because like I said, when the first time it hits that yellow span is usually pretty good. We get another double top and it comes back to the blue span. Is there enough room from the yellow span to the blue span? Yes, but again, we have a buy gap here now. And we get the double doji and then an expansion, but it's right through the blue gap or the blue span, and you have a buy gap. This is the green. All right, so the market kind of pops through here. And then I believe, no, it's still a little further away. So we get a sell gap here. And again, the sell gap happens, you know, over here, you're going to see it. So basically the buy gap gets eaten and the sell gap gets printed. So could you take this trade here off of the bottom of the sell gap? Yes, absolutely. This could be a trade here, second bar tail as well. You would just need to be covering by that low because it's going to be a bigger double bottom, right, from over here. So second bar tail again off of those lows I wouldn't take. You want to be careful. It is you know, a bigger double bottom, but again, you gotta be prepared for it to do whatever. So we got a sell gap here. So the sell gap is printed already now. So we get dojis and expansion bar. So I mean, you could attempt to take this trade here. It would have really come back on you pretty far. Usually with the dojis, you just wait is what I usually say. Like, wait, if this is really high here like this, wait until you get the smaller bump, and it usually does work that way. So it'll have this giant bump and they'll try one more time because of all of this buy momentum. They're going to try one more time, and then when they fail, this bump becomes smaller. And it's like divergence, but it's more the slowing of momentum, and then that's when you try to take your trade here. So this little double top here, that's where you'd want to try to take that trade. And then when it breaks that neckline, you could look at a measured move of that. A lower low, lower high. Again, you could attempt this here, but it's best to wait for that secondary bar here, and it's still up high. See, the green line's really high. It didn't move back down, and you got a buy gap down here. So that's held, so you got to be careful. We get a double bottom here. This would have been a double bottom as well, but you can't just take things because it says double bottom. That's usually just an identifier. So I would be looking for this to come down to the gap to buy it off of there. So at this moment, all we have is this sell gap up here. So we get a higher high here. So again, it's really high. Again, up at the yellow 0.1, it usually gets a pullback. Can you take those right off of that? I wouldn't, but you do have a bounce off the sell gap there. It is something you could. It's the blue line. You could attempt that. It's through levels. It's through the highway, and you can see it tailed out here. Would have tailed on that bar, tailed on this bar. It dojied underneath the highway, and then it fails. So you get a double doji under the highway, and then this. So this bar, this would have been a failed trade. But again, this is why you don't trade. You got double bottom and a gap level. So that's why you don't do that. If you think, oh, it's going to break out, you just have to play the system as it goes. And so we get a double top here. Again, above the highway, wouldn't be really looking for that. Then we get a higher low, so we have a triangle happening here. So double top, lower low, lower high, higher low. And this kind of, that you can see the green line has stayed above the 50 here, so we have uptrend, up momentum. So Could you take this here going through it? Maybe, thinking this is going to hold, but probably would have waited. And you get another setup here, buying off the highway, and it's eating your sell gap. So higher low, higher high. So it's possible here that it's on that 7 o'clock, 7:30 move now, possibly getting that second leg up, fill that gap. So maybe you take that again, buying off this. And now we have divergence here. We have divergence, and it eats the sell gap, and then it pulls back. And so why are you not buying here? Why shouldn't you buy here? Well, you might buy here. This might be a good place to buy for sure. But everything is still up or down on the oscillator here. So could you predict a color change? Absolutely, you could. What I like to do is kind of look back and see what is over here. So we have all of our tops. We have a triple top right here. So again, sellers came in and pushed the market down. And so you got to be careful. And again, you're going to take losses. So then we get a higher high, like a double top here, and it sells off. And I mean, could you take this color change? Well, the oscillator is pretty right most of the time, but there are times that it's not as well. So that's all. Again, I'd be looking for some type of move up again. So we came down really deep here. So you always, again, wait for it to make that secondary, and then it has a smaller bump, and that can give you some type of catapult usually, and that actually took off. Now, would I be buying here? I'm not sure I would be buying here. It is off the top of this whole area down here, so it's triple doji, so definitely possible for it to go. Triple doji is a worthwhile trade once it expands out of that. So, but there's lots of them, like the one over here where it expand, it popped out, and then it went nowhere. Well, it didn't clip you out, because your stop would be above there, and it would have finally paid out, but that wouldn't have been so fun. Again, goes straight to the pink span and then pulls off. Could you sell that pink span right there? You could probably sell that pink span. Usually the first time back to that span, it's going to get defended. So it's the open as well. And then you get a double doji, expansion above, another doji, and then a buy. But you see, remember what I said? This is really big down here. You got to wait for it to become smaller. Also, we have buy gaps here, so you are looking to buy. So just trying to find, because we want to buy off of these gaps if possible, especially when they align with your Xroc and you're above the highway. So you have an entry here, possibly like a little double bottom, higher low, and that goes, and it gives you a break even. So it goes 1 bar, 2 bar, and then your break even would have happened right there at the open automatically with your ATM, and then you would have been sitting there waiting for another trade. And you see now we have a double bottom off the buy gap, and see the bump has now gotten tremendously smaller. Our Xroc is turning up, so this is where you'd want to go long here. And so you go long, and it double dojied. You might hold. You weren't break even yet. You might hold, but also if it double dojied right there on the expansion bar, you could go long there as well. So that would have been a pretty good trade there. Everything aligns. And again, the whole thing is about being patient. You're selling under the highway here. Again, into the blue span, the yellow span, and a buy gap. So no, you're not. It would have played out, right? Because it keeps eating these gaps, and that's a trading range day, especially when it goes really strong for that second leg. So could you just sell under these and buy over the top and sell under below? Absolutely. So once this double doji's through these gap levels here, this might be something to think about, that you're able to jump on something like that when it double doji's like that underneath. So those turn out to be usually pretty good trades. 1, 2, 3, 4. So would have gotten you a good trade there. If you would have jumped under the span, everything's down, so those work out usually pretty well. We get a lower low, and we get like a double bottom here, and everything's up. This would be like a reversal scenario, and again, reversals are risky, but see how everything actually turned blue here. The green line's above the 50, and now our Xroc just popped over on that one on our first buy bar there. Without, that's not a doji, it's a full candle bar. So these are good reversals. I would be out by that blue yellow span, or at least break even, because I'd be worried about it bouncing there. But it goes up in the sell gap here, tries to bounce on the sell gap, but you don't want to sell above the highway and through the spans. You kind of want to wait. We get a higher low. I wouldn't be buying here, even though it just takes off, unfortunately. We get that double doji at the open here and an expansion. Again, I wouldn't, if I wasn't long right there, I probably wouldn't take that. And this thing just shot up, right? So it closed the gap. So this was where they decided to close the gap at 8:30 right here. So pretty nice little trade. If you went off of this one here and above the highway, bought that, you would have got a break even, a higher high. Could you take these trades here as a reversal? Yeah, you'd want to be in as early as possible here. If you took it after the first bar, 1, 2, 3, you would have got a break even, maybe a 3-bar win. You get a double bottom here, and then a push back up. Again, I would be really careful. You're buying into this sell gap now, and there's multiple of them and highs here. So this would be really dangerous, I would say. You'd try selling here, of course, and then, but your stops are tight, so you gotta pick the right area. You can't just, like, if you sold here and then decided to hold on to it, it would have stopped you out. Then you'd have to sell again. If you sold here, it stopped you out. You sold here, it stopped you out. But it never went through these areas. So, oh yeah, you move your stop way out here, but that's when the market just doesn't care and goes to your stop. You take a gigantic loss, and then you get emotional, right? So the whole thing is about just following some simple rules. And like Friday being a really kind of a tight trading range day, except for the one big move up, and we get a big move back down. But I'm not usually around 10:30ish, 10:30. I'm not usually around, so don't sit here all day and trade. So I don't know what people want to do with their life, but the last thing I want to do is sit in front of a computer all day and just to tell people I trade, So we have a buy gap here. We have a lower high, lower low. We have divergence going on. Can you buy this here? Yeah, you could. You could buy this. It's going through levels again. I wouldn't be doing that myself. It would have been a break even likely. We get a higher high, and then it turns back down here. So basically, this is a trading range from Friday, the end of Friday, or no, the end of Thursday's trading range. These are all the tops. The end of the trading range on Thursday. So it's the top of the channel. I mean, it's very confluent to sell, that's for sure. So we get this lower high, lower low, and then we get a double top here, It's through the span, it's through these buy gaps. Again, I would just wait. Again, this whole area here is not so great. I would be waiting for it to come back down underneath, so now it breaks down underneath here, and so now we'd be looking for some type of sell. Why is this thing doing that? There we go. So we get a doji bar, an expansion bar. So this is be a place, you got a printed gap. Now you got the sell gaps or buy gaps are gone. We're underneath the span. It isn't all the way back to the highway, but it's pretty close. So we're right on the same double dojis as earlier. So this would be a good spot to probably go short. And that bar would have paid out pretty good. Could have you gone short right here? Yeah, the only issue is that you're trading right through the spans, but again, and they're blue, yellow, pink, so they had upward momentum, so they had changed, right? So you can see that, see how they changed, right? Here, back here, there was blue, pink, yellow, so they've actually created upward momentum. So, but it's reversing again, possible there, but here for sure is a good sell spot. This is a buy gap right here, and it comes down into the buy gap and it bounces off. Could you buy that right there? It's, again, you could do anything you want, but only if there's a reversal setup, meaning that everything turns. It's usually a double bounce, and maybe there's a level there. That's ideal. Here we get a lower high off the highway, and again, you see how tall this is right here. So this is super high, so we have massive divergence right with this area. So these, when there's big divergence like that, we have levels, we have a gap, we have the highway, we have confluence to sell. And so this would be a good sell, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it chops. So if you're looking for more, you might have been able to hold through all these quadruple dojis, but I wouldn't have done that. I would have taken that 4, and then if it chopped on you, maybe move that tighter. You get a little double bottom here. There's divergence, of course, as well. It's a buy gap again, so again, we're under the highway. We have the sell gaps that push down into this buy gap. So again, we should be looking for possible the bottom again. And so meaning that we have sell gaps pushing through these buy gaps. So there's pressure. So we have an expansion here. Again, everything is up. And you have a double bottom. So I really would be worried about this sell gap or this buy gap being something that can hold. So you'd want a lot more room. Here you're over the highway span. It's the sell gap. It's a lower high. I mean, I wouldn't do it. I'd wait, and that's, it's sold off. Then you get this lower high, and you got more sell gaps that came in. So could you take this trade to go lower? Yeah, you could risk it at 1, 2, 3. I don't think you would have got it. Maybe you would have held for 4, but most likely 1, 2, 3, and it clipped you out break even. You get the lower low, and then you see how this is trying to reverse here on the oscillators. Here, our Xroc hasn't quite made it yet, but double top, we get the double doji underneath the highway. And here, is there room to this low? 1, 2, 3. I mean, maybe you caught that. It's definitely letting out the traders that were trapped. We had trapped traders down at, where were they at? Like 946 and then 953. So 953, it looks like it came to and decided that it was going to bounce. And then again, everything's up here. Is this a reversal? This actually could be a big reversal spot, but just how the oscillators are showing green, all the momentum has failed. You have a buy gap down here. You have, you know, so many lows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lows stacked up down here. So it's really stacked plus a previous day's low. It's failed to break. So this could be a good place to go long. It double dojied, and then you could have maybe gone long after got over the highway back to the yellow span. It loves those spans. Telling you guys, don't trade through them. They only go through once in a while. That one came off of it again, back to that low area again. And again, this whole area down here is a really good place to go long. Where would you do it? Double bottom again. I don't know, you would call that a double bottom too. So that one, you went 1, it went 2. You might have got a break even. It would have maybe not clipped you out if your stop was just far enough below. It went to the same price pretty much. Double bottom, and then it went again. Maybe you go here. This is where the Xroc and everything says to enter. This would be too early. You see down here, it's way deep. This says not crossed, and then it crosses. Everything crosses up here and makes that last little push. So then there's your pullback. So I mean, would have you taken it here? Well, you're trading through the highway. So then this punches up and gets a small sell gap, my buy gap here as well too. So it punches up. And then we get off of this buy gap, we get this little doji and then an expansion bar, and we're above the span, so probably going to the pink span here. So this would be a good place to go long. Xroc is above 0, but our oscillator hasn't yet moved. It double dojied, of course. And so this would have been 1, 2, wait, let me see, 1, 2. You would have been a break even. So I wouldn't have re-entered. Maybe you do. It's so close to that span. I wouldn't re-enter. We get another move down here. Would you take this off of? Now these are risky. I say risky, but you got the buy gap, but then you have the spans. They haven't switched yet, meaning the blue isn't moved above the yellow yet. So it's still has selling pressure. So double bottom here off the buy gap. Maybe this will be a better spot. So it's climbing above. So you could go long here off of the buy gap. You have a little bit of risk, but then it's open back to the high. So this would be a good spot to go back to the high, possibly. It reverses. You would not have been taken out, and then it climbs. You probably get out break even there. And so what I do is I get out break even once it chops, unless it's very obvious where it's going. So, and here we go, double doji back underneath. This is getting really messy down here. So this whole area, so breaks lower here, and then it finally moves up off of this buy gap. So could have you bought this somewhere in here? Maybe. You know, it's a tough call right there. So we get it off, a bounce off the highway here, and I would say back to the open, you know, open of the day there, but you know, I don't know. It's a tough call here right now. And then we're at 12:20, so I'm going to call it. And this probably gets more choppy here as the day goes on, and you see it just kind of bounces on those spans. All right, so that little walkthrough on Friday. And again, Friday, it's a tough trading day on Friday. I think I came out a little bit ahead on Friday, but that's about it. Nothing big. So it was a tough day. All right, see you guys on the next one.